Hello, everyone. It's Elaine. I'm getting ready for my lunch with Elaine, happening every Tuesday at Webster's at noon, where we will eat a delicious meal together, and I'll do a short presentation. So today's topic is going to be on fiber, and I become increasingly alarmed that most Americans are only getting less than half of the fiber that they need to be healthy. And it's often heard it said, if you ask someone who's healthy what they wish for, they have thousands of wishes and dreams and hopes and aspirations. Ask somebody who's unhealthy and they have one wish, and that is to be healthy. So it's my goal to help folks along that journey to get a healthier lifestyle, certainly focused around food. So today I'm sitting here and I'm smelling the amazing aroma of ratatouille. I made a strawberry, kale, and quinoa salad that has a maple balsamic dressing. I made some spring mix with tomatoes, some cooked carrots, and a rice noodle pasta dish that has olives and nutritional yeast and a delicious uh, level of heat just to give it some great flavor. Going back to the topic that we had last week, in which I talked about adding different types of food, we're looking at ingredients today in today's lunch that uh, go over 20 items. So we got a great dish for our microbiome in our gut today as well. And that brings us back to the topic that I wanted to briefly touch base on, and that is fiber. Again, I mentioned most Americans only get about half of the recommended daily amount of fiber. And for some Americans, I would say they're not even hitting that halfway mark. It varies depending on your age and other factors, um, your, your weight as well. But for most people, the amount of fiber you want is somewhere between the 25, 28 grams up to 35 or 40 grams. I get way more than that, I know. The lunch I made today comes in solidly at 20 grams of fiber, which is it's definitely half of what you need in a day. And then I would still have two other meals to get the rest. Fiber is divided into two types. There's soluble and insoluble. So soluble fiber, things that could be dissolved into water to make a gel. So that means beans or lentils. A lot of our vegetables, such as broccoli, would do that. Think of making a cream or broccoli soup, right? You could pulverize that. Whereas there are other vegetables like cauliflower and potatoes go into the insoluble. So I think of the insoluble, those things that have a little bit more structure to them, as being the, shall we say, the wire brush that goes through our inside. Um, but bottom line is we have been um, inundated with new processed food categories. And those are prebiotics and probiotics. So, fiber is that. Fiber feeds the microflora in our gut. And that's what concerns me about it missing in most Americans' diet. Meat, dairy contains absolutely zero fiber, none, zilch, zero. And for a diet that is focused on keto or carnivore diet or this paleo diet that we hear so much about as of late, it's severely lacking in fiber for the most part. I would hope that people are being conscientious and trying to make better choices and increasing their fiber. But truth is, most they're probably not, because again, it's been vilified the way carbohydrates has, or just left off the table. And this has been fiber comes around to popularity, to being talked about again, and it's great when it does and people get conscientious and they start to eat their oatmeal and move to whole grains, but it doesn't always last. um, so it fiber protects again against heart disease, diabetes, diverticulitis, inflammatory bowel syndrome, obesity, and cancer, colon cancer in particular. It can help flush toxins from the body. It can lower cholesterol and promote weight loss. The rash and the epidemic of obesity that we see in our country is evidence that we're not making the progress that we need to make. Um, Certainly, heavily processed foods, in essence, destroys most of the fiber in that food. So we again want to eat foods as close to their original form as possible. I'll put some photos up of the meal I made, and specifically, I made a meal today. It is not super heavy in beans, because one pitfall people can make is like, all right, I'm going to eat more fiber, and they load up on beans and grains, and you got to give your microbiome a chance to adjust. Once you start eating those things regularly, you won't have the bloating and the gas that people sometimes get when they do things too much all at once, and then they stop. So I want you to ease into it. It took you a lifetime to get here. You don't have to fix this in a week. But we can make real changes in a week. So love to see you next week at Tuesday's Lunch with Elaine. They are completely standalone events. If you can't make one, don't worry about it. Or you can just only make one. That's fun. I'd love to see you. Noon on Tuesdays running through July 15th. Thank you.